That's it, isn't it?
There we go.
Hi, welcome to the Gun Room, Cook Find Record. How you doing, everyone? Nice to have you back. It's the pre-season podcast. We'll be talking about all sorts of things, who we think is going to be up the top, who we think is going to be down the bottom, who's done the best buys so far, and what we can expect from Arsenal, because we've been doing a bit of digging and diving, and we've been stealing people virtually. Jay, how are you?
Yeah, very good, thanks. Very good.
Good. As I say, it's been a weird one so far in the transfer window. How do you think we've done so far?
I think we've done pretty well. I'm pleased. Obviously, the Gabriel Jesus. He's offered us so much in these pre-season friendlies, hasn't he? Already he's made such a difference to. We last season we struggled in that centre forward position, didn't we? We lacked pace, and we lacked anybody that could move along the line. And he looks like he's going to be a great signing. He looks happy to collect the ball deep, doesn't he, and move it on. And he gets into areas that the strikers that we had last season weren't getting into. And he looks like he's relishing being the main striker, doesn't he? And I hope, you can only be excited by his goals. And then you look at like the Zinchenko signing, and it makes so much sense, doesn't it? With Tierney's, everybody knows about, his injury issues. And to get a player of that quality for, what was it, 35 million. It is another great piece of business, who's versatile as well. And then, they're the two main signings.
Were you shocked, Jay, how much we got them for? Because I said about stealing in the intro, and I feel that we've done that. Yeah. It's a bit like Odegaard all over again, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the Zinchenko signing especially, because he's so versatile, and also he was, let's not forget that both Jesus and Zinchenko played like big parts in City's season last year, and they it's not like they only played the odd game here or there. They were like major factors and played massive parts in City's success. So to get those two over the line was brilliant. I suppose the Fabio Vieira signing came out of nowhere, didn't it? Like nobody. I'm not going to claim to be like an expert on the player, but I've seen the videos like most other people, and he looks like an exciting player and somebody who can, that we can invest time in and mould into the type of attacking midfielder or winger or whatever he's going to be. He's going to be here for years to come, and that came out of nowhere. But again, seems like we've got, there's a plan to what we're doing. We're not just going out and signing, anyone or names, or we're not being agent driven. Doesn't seem like that anyway. It seems like we're going for certain players, and obviously I hope we manage to just maybe get one or two more over the line. But so far, obviously as well, the keeper, obviously with Leno leaving, we signed it was Turner, isn't it?
Yeah, Matt Turner.
Brain drain then for a minute. Yeah, Matt,
we're getting rid of the cobwebs, Jay. We've been out of action for a while.
Yeah, it was bound to happen with Leno leaving. We can't have Leno's far too good to be a backup, isn't he? And he's it looks like Fulham are going to get him, and they're getting a good goalkeeper for very little money. Do
you think 8 million's too cheap though?
I think so. I think it's too cheap. I think we've bowed. We've sort of just let him go. It's almost as if the club said to it, just bide your time last season, and we'll get you that move at the end of the season. So yeah, all in all, pretty pleased. I hope we get one or two more, but it looks like we're going to have to get rid of a few, doesn't it, before we can make any more signings, because our squad still is quite
heavy,
isn't it? So we need to get rid of a few, and it looks like that's happening within the next couple of weeks. So yeah, all in all, very pleased. We look and I know it's only pre-season, but the games that I've seen, I've managed to catch quite a bit of it. You know, the team look re-energized, don't they? They look like, you know, we needed that Jesus signing, and he's just slotted in perfectly, and he's such a fluid player. And you know, I love the fact that he comes deep, picks the ball up, and he's passing and moving, you know, and we, you know, we all know what we had last season. It wasn't that. So let's hope we can hit the ground running against Palace.
Was it against Sevilla when he got the ball on the left and then he played it through it? But he ran. This is the thing.
Yeah.
The movement is really good and it's unpredictable. We had a Aubameyang where he got kind of stuck on the left-hand channel, wasn't it? Very sort of predictable. But Jesus, I've got to get used to saying it. He just comes from nowhere, doesn't he? And he gets involved in the interplay on the way down. So it's a really sharp new dimension, and he's going to get lots of chances. Jay, do you think it's early days, obviously pre-season doesn't really mean anything, but is he going to get us 20 plus goals a season?
I mean, 20 goals is a lot, but he's going to be our main man, you know. I mean, Eddie's looked nice and sharp in pre-season as well, and I mean, you live in hope that Eddie can learn from Jesus, even though, you know, Jesus is only 25, I think, a youngster himself, but very experienced. And Eddie's looked good, and his movements looked, you know, nice and sharp in these friendlies. But 20 goals, I hope so. You know, it's a lot of goals. That is a lot of Premier League goals. There's no reason why not. He's gonna be the main man. You know.
Here's the thing, though, Jay. How many chances did we not have someone on the end? The ball came in that box. There was no one. There was no poacher or anything like that. Now, I think it was it Lee Dixon said that, or Nigel Winterburn, one or the other, said that he reminds them of Ian Wright.
Yeah.
Now, he has got that instinct. I wouldn't go that far. You know, hold on a minute. He's only just got there. But, you know, he has got that instinct and that natural ability and that pace and that invention as well to get us going there. But I don't know. I fancy him for 20 goals a season.
Well, I mean, our attacking sort of 5 or 6 players we've got at the moment, even let's say we start the season or we end this transfer window without signing any more attacking players. You know, we've got Martinelli, who again, he just, you like to think that, I mean, last season he had periods where he was really good, and you like to think that he's gonna grow and have another really good season. Obviously, you've got Ødegaard, who's the captain, and he's going to be the talisman, and he's going to be the one threading those balls through. You've got Saka, who player of the year last season. I mean, we all know what he can do. And you've got Smith Rowe, you've got Eddie. It's you know, we look, and all these players, they can interchange in positions, can't they? You know, they can, and I think that's obviously Arteta is really big on versatility, and he's really big on players digging in and putting in a shift. But you know what? If Jesus needs to go out onto the left-hand side or the right-hand side, Eddie can go through the middle, or they can both play together up front. It's all about these options, which very recently we didn't have too many options, did we? You know, going forward, and like you said, we were creating chances, but nobody was on the end of them. We've now got, I believe, I mean, Jesus, you wouldn't probably at the moment, you wouldn't put him at the very, very top table of European strikers, mainly because he's at City, he hasn't been the main man, has he? You know, but you never, he's young enough to grow into that and become absolutely elite, and you live in hope that he can do that. There's no reason why not. And he scored a bag full of goals already in pre-season. Yep, only pre-season, but it's encouraging. You know, you'd be slightly worried if he hadn't scored, right? And you'd be like, God, you know, is he not fancying this project or whatever? But it's obviously not like that. So 20 goals, you know, it would be superb. And he just looks like he's enjoying his football, doesn't he? In these, you know, very, and I know that, again, it's only pre-season, but he looks very exciting.
If you're wondering where Mitch is, Mitch has got work commitments, so he can't be here. Paul was also going to be here, Paul McParland, but he's got some function to go to. Free beer, probably. That's why he's gone. I was just going to quote you a little factoid. It's from Sky. It's got Zinchenko and Tierney on there. Minutes played for Zinchenko, 1,044. Tierney, 1,918. Goals conceded by Zinchenko. I'm having a real dickens of a job saying his name, aren't I? Never mind. 0.78 goals conceded, whereas Kieran Tierney, 0.99. Tackle success for Zinchenko, 6.03. For Tierney, 3.65. Interceptions, 1.21 against 0.7. Chances created, 1.38 for Zinchenko and 0.994 for Tierney. Last one, bore you to death with figures. Dribble success, 4.31 for Zinchenko and Tierney, 1.56. So there is a difference, but we have to bear in mind with those figures. You can do anything with figures, can't you? That obviously Kieran Tierney was out for a spell as well, and if he had played, his figures could have been better.
Yeah.
But he's a. I tell you what, I was excited that we got two Man City players. Who would have thought that? Looking into your crystal ball, would you have thought that we'd been able to get two off Pep? I think you mentioned it last season. We might get one, but we won't get two.
No. I mean, I think we were at the time we were talking about Sterling and Jesus, wasn't it? And I think, I think Zinchenko wasn't really being mentioned at all. And the good thing, another good thing about that signing is they're not both Tierney and Zinchenko. They're not, you know, you don't. They can.
Have you been practicing? You seem to. It just rolls off your tongue, doesn't it? Eh? You've been doing extra practicing at home.
I've got my teeth in. They can both play together, can't they? They're not just. We don't have to pick one or the other. Zinchenko's that. He can play a bit further forward. But he can play it, left 8 if he needs to. And I've always liked Zinchenko. Always, he's always impressed me. And I think you don't have to look too hard on YouTube for interviews with current Man City players who really rated him when he was at City. And I think we've got a really, really good player. And again, another good, very obvious factor about these signings is the type of player that we're, the character is again coming through, isn't it? These players, like you only have to see the interviews, that they all seem very alike, don't they? In personality and characteristics, they all seem very, very similar type of personality, and that's huge, isn't it? Because for so long we had a team full of individuals or highly paid players that on huge contracts that maybe didn't deserve it. Well, I think we've got a group now, very much Arteta's group, of hungry, up and coming players with maybe a little bit of a point to prove, and it's very exciting. It's I'm trying not to get carried away like everybody else in pre-season, but you can only be enthusiastic.
Good luck with that.
You can only be excited. I mean, you live in hope that we can turn up on Friday, don't you? All this pre-season talk.
Oh, you've got people on social media saying 4-0, 6-0 against Palace, but that's, come on, put the brakes on. It's just pre-season, and the one thing about pre-season, that Chelsea side, what was that about? I mean, they look like a bunch of strangers. They've got problems. We'll get to them in a bit, but let's concentrate on the Arsenal, and then we'll drift off, and then we'll come back. William Saliba. Yeah. What have you made of him? I mean, it's a triumphant return, isn't it? He looks as solid as a rock, and he hasn't conceded a goal. No, he's looked superb, hasn't he? It looks like he looks. And he plays very similarly to Van Dijk. That was a comparison that I noticed, because I'll be honest, I hadn't really watched too much of him. I didn't watch any of him when he played for Marseille, and I'll be honest, I didn't think he'd come back and he would really feature. I thought his Arsenal career was, well, not over, but maybe heading towards being over. But with Tomiyasu being injured again, it's meant that Ben White's shifted over to the right. And he's played a major part
in this pre-season, and obviously started against Seville, which, I mean, that team looked like it will be the starting lineup on Friday against Palace. And he looks, I mean, he's like a new signing, isn't he? I know nobody likes that term, but he, you know, imagine if we'd have signed him from Marseille this summer, people would be raving about him, you know. And he looks very strong, looks very calm, he looks confident. Obviously, he had a great season last year, French international now. Could be, I mean, that partnership, you know, when Saliba stood next to Gabriel, I mean, the giants, aren't they? They are. They're very, very big guys, aren't they? You know, gone are the days of Mustafi and Socrates. You know, gone are those. You know, these guys are athletes, young, again, chomping at the bit. And yeah, he looks superb. I hope he has a great season and has a long Arsenal career, signs new contract. But it's down to him, isn't it? I suppose he's got to hit the ground running, and he's got to take this opportunity, because when Tomiyasu comes back and Tierney comes back, you know, there's going to be healthy competition, and he's got to be able to deal with that, hasn't he? His temperament, I suppose, and his his application is going to be tested when there's competition for a place. Because, I mean, Rob Holding at the moment as the backup defender is not really somebody who I see replacing him. But, you know, when Tomiyasu comes back, that's a different sort of prospect, isn't it? Where you're going to fit these players in. But that's a good problem to have, you know.
I mean, the season's long, so they'll all get a game at some point, and they'll get a run as well. And then we get our injury session, don't we? Normally it was December or January, so we'll be able to fit everyone else in.
For the World Cup as well.
Oh yeah.
Deal with, you know, a lot of our players, unlike previous tournaments, we're going to have a lot of players that will go to the World Cup, and it's how we managed to manage our way through that. And fingers crossed we can come out of there with no injury problems.
I will just say to Mr. Saliba, when you're in the changing room, don't use this on any sort of dodgy stuff.
Off. Yeah.
Right. Let's talk about someone else. Let's talk about Man City. Erling Haarland. I can say that one. Mm-hmm. What did you make of that signing? Do you think that is the missing piece? Pep's rejigging, isn't he? He's kind of jigging the formula about to, as they say, keep it fresh. I don't believe that for a second. He just knows what he wants, and it's time to put that in place. Had not a bad sort of Community Shield game, but he missed a howler. It was a proper sitter, wasn't it? Do you think he's going to have to find time to settle in, or do you think he's going to hit the ground running?
No, I still think it's a savage signing. He's a great player.
Cheap as well, wasn't
it? Yeah, cheap. But obviously the wages will be insane. But I think they've let Sterling go, City. They've let Jesus go, obviously, and they've signed Haarland. So his goals, ultimately, he's good enough to make up those goals that they've lost. They are going to be a slightly different side, aren't they? Because he's a target man. His movement was good. He was up against Van Dijk. He's up against Liverpool, who defensively, all over the park, they're a good side, but defensively they're especially good. And he still managed to get him behind, and he still caused them some problems. They're just going to have to find ways to find him, aren't they? They're going to have to. They haven't been that team. They've been that. They'll pass you to death, and score 5 or 6 goals. Whereas they're going to have to slightly adapt, aren't they? And he's going to be a big hit. He's going to be. Yeah, he's
a mountain, isn't he? He's just a monstrosity. I mean, you used to look at Lukaku and think, God, this boy's big. He's a big old lump. He's like a fridge freezer running on legs. But Haaland is he's going to intimidate a lot of defences just by standing there.
Yeah, he's going to get a hatful. He missed that chance, but you could see straight away. He turned around and laughed it off. And he seems to be, he's a confident young man. I'm sure he's going to be a great signing. Jay,
have you ever missed a sitter like that?
Of course not. course not.
Liar. We've all done that. Scuffed it, took a swing. Were you surprised that City sold players to Premier League rivals?
Yeah, the Sterling one, I suppose. There was rumours, weren't there, at the end of the season that Sterling was going to go, but it was, I suppose, Pep maybe doesn't see selling Jesus to us as a massive, I'd say, worry, because we were miles behind him. But you would say Chelsea is slightly closer, and selling to Chelsea, yeah, I suppose it's a bit of a shock. But ultimately, when you sign in Haarland, it doesn't really matter, because he was the biggest, scariest striker in the world, you would say, even probably above Mbappe last season. Where was he going to go to? But
trouble is, he's not up against German electricians and farmers, is he, this season?
It's going to be a test for him. It's going to be a test. And also, if he doesn't score after a couple of games, you know what the media will be like. They'll be jumping on him, won't they? They'll be, or there'll be the memes all over social media and, blah, blah, blah. But
it's already started.
Yeah.
It's already started.
Yeah.
Liverpool, let's do Liverpool for a bit. What do you make of their transfer activity so far?
Yeah, so Mane, there's been...
They're one of the only teams, Jade, that can lose people like Minamino, Jota, all Sane. How do they get away with that and still just bring in like for like? Yeah,
I mean, they made Diaz last season was he hit straight away, hit the ground running, and looks like a really good, solid player. And he was ultimately, I think he was brought in with the prospect of either losing Salah or Mane, and Salah committed to the club, and they sold Mane and already got a replacement in Diaz. But Núñez, big guy, looks like a handful. I mean,
what did I call him? Did I call him Sani or something? I just replayed that in my head. Mane. Yeah.
That's all right.
It's the first one, people.
While.
Give me a break, for God's sake. We've been busy. I've been taking the kids out to dim church and all sorts. So do you rate? Are they going to be able to eclipse Pep this season? There wasn't much in it, was it? It was like a cigarette paper between the pair.
Yeah, they won the Community Shield, but it was bloody close. It was close, wasn't it? But it's like you said, there was a cigarette paper between them last season, wasn't there? So it's so tough. I don't know. Núñez looks good. Like they're both still ridiculously strong sides. The league title is going to come from either of those two. Nobody else, no other side is going to get anywhere near him. They look good, and I suppose they've got that confidence boost having won the Community Shield. So they're a great side, and until Klopp leaves, they're going to continue to be strong. I don't like the bloke, but he's a great coach, and he's got that pull now, and he's able to him alone. And obviously Liverpool are an attractive prospect for players, but he's a great coach, and players want to play for him, and that's why they went and they got Núñez, and and I'm sure they'll strengthen again.
I was just going to say, did you see Núñez when he got that goal? He was celebrating like he'd won the World Cup, and I thought, listen, it's just like a big salad dish.
Well, the only thing I'll say to that is, there's this celebration police thing, isn't there? Like, I mean, I don't like Liverpool, obviously, and I certainly don't want them to do well at all, but they are going to do well. And then when he scored that goal, I know he did get a bit of a hammering, but I kind of thought, you know what? It's a big game. It's, especially for a young foreign player to come into, and I thought, okay, might have been a bit over the top, but you know what? It's a big game, isn't it? Against City, and
hey mate, you should have seen me. If I scored a goal, I was running around for half an hour. I was really milking the tits off it.
Yeah, I'd be the same. I'd be the same.
So we've had a little look at Liverpool. Let's have a look at Chelsea.
Mm-hmm.
That's a bit of a funny one, isn't it? I've got something here. Arsenal till I die on Facebook. Jesus rejected Chelsea to join Arsenal. Rafinha rejected Chelsea to join Barcelona. Lewandowski rejected Chelsea to join Barcelona. Dembele rejected Chelsea and signed a new contract. It's a bit sucky, isn't it, for them? What's kind of the deal there? Is it just they've got new owners? No one knows what's going on. Why have Chelsea kind of not attractive anymore?
Yeah, that's it. I suppose there's that level of uncertainty.
Sort the teeth out.
There's that level of uncertainty, right, about where they've been for the last 6 months or so since Abramovich had to sell the club, and like Rudiger was a big player for them, and he's left, and Christensen left, and obviously Lukaku was a car crash last season, wasn't he? Massive issue. And we've been so used to Chelsea getting what they want, right, under Abramovich, just having unlimited cash and just paying these players whatever their agents demand. I don't know if that's the case now with the new owners. They signed Koulibaly. He's 31. He's good defender, don't get me wrong, but he's the wrong side of 30. They've got Sterling, great signing, very, very good player. I'm not gonna say anything else.
They got one out of about 6, didn't they? So and what a one to get. I mean, he's a good player.
And I just think with Chelsea, they're gonna go hard these last few weeks of the window. They're gonna sign some players, and I'm sure Tommy Tuchel will get what he wants at the end.
Timo Werner, he's connected with Arsenal at the moment. Have you seen that rumor?
I haven't.
Yeah,
not.
I just think, come up with something better than that as a rumor.
No, I did see that there was a link with Newcastle with Timo Werner, which kind of made a little bit more sense. But he's just not prolific enough, is he? He can't finish his dinner, the lad. But he's yeah, he's just struggling. He's a very unhappy sausage, isn't he? Down at Chelsea, and there's that vibe. Whenever you see someone reporting on Chelsea, it's a bit like you wait for a corpse to come out and someone to bury it. It's that vibe, isn't it? Yeah.
It's quite. I'm not really sure Chelsea. If it carries on the way it is, I think they're going to struggle next year. I think Tuchel's he's going to be looking at 5 or 6 if he can't get these people playing to the best of their ability and getting his strikers firing. He looks a bit light, like we were last season. He looks a bit light up front.
They need a striker. They do. They've got. I mean, Havertz he was used as a sort of a false 9, wasn't he? And obviously we've spoke about Werner. He's just not the finished article at all. But again, they're going to have cash, and they're going to throw cash at the team. They're going to get what they want. I think they're going to get what they want.
Right, let's have a look at the chicken on the beach ball down the road. What have you made of their business? Jamie O'Hara. Oh dear, poor lads. He's saying with all these players that they bought, it's exactly what they wanted, and that they should be challenging for top 3 bare minimum, and they're going to be pushing Liverpool. I mean, it's on the audio pod. We've got a snippet of it. Is it going to be one of those ones where if Conte halfway through the year doesn't look like he's in a good position or whatever, that the club are going to want him out, or he's just going to do a bunk? He's going to get his bike from round the back and pedal off. I mean, there's a play on words there. He's going to pedal off.
Conte's been backed, hasn't he? Bissouma's a good signing. I'd have took him. He was a good signing. I was disappointed to see him go. And they've got Richarlison, who I suppose is not a bad player. Perisic, Longley, not a great player. Won't factor much. But like you say, if they don't hit the ground running, Conte, we've seen that he's that reactionary type character, isn't he? We've seen last season a number of times where he came out and criticised the players and blah blah blah. But he's a good manager, a great manager. As we've said on the pod numerous times, he's up there with Pep and Klopp, and that's the worrying thing. Is he going to get it right? Is he going to end this trophy drought? I hope not. But they're not going to be. They haven't bridged the gap that much. They're not up to where the top 2 they're not there yet. You know, they're going to need a lot more. You know, they're only a couple of injuries. You know, lose Kane and lose Son, and you know, the players they've brought in, they're not good enough to fire them back to where. I tell you, it's not just O'Hara. I've seen a lot of different outlets, not just on Twitter, but you know, radio, over the internet, different articles. A lot of these well-known or respected journalists are all tipping Spurs to be right up there, and I don't think that's going to be the case. I think it's going to be similar to last season. I think the top two will be quite a way ahead of everybody else, but then I think it will be Chelsea, Spurs, and Arsenal fighting out for that third, fourth spot. I don't think Spurs will be up to these heady heights of, you know, getting runners up or fighting for the title. They're not there yet. No way, not a chance.
A nice little piece here, seeing as you mentioned Richarlison, Gabriel Jesus versus Richarlison. 159 games for Jesus, Richarlison 173, 58 for our man, goals, 48 for him, 29 assists for our man, our number 9, 16 for Richarlison, 0.36 goals per match for Jesus, and 0.28 for Richarlison. 47% shooting accuracy, opposed to 33%. So as Tony Cascarino said, he thought that Gabriel Jesus ticked a lot more boxes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Much
just
better,
on the evidence of that.
Much better signing, but I think Richarlison plays ahead of Jesus for Brazil, doesn't he? At the minute, I think he, I mean, no comparison. Even before we signed Jesus, I'd much rather have had Jesus than Richarlison. I mean, ultimately as well, Richarlison, God, he comes across like an absolute weapon, doesn't he? You know, on the pitch, diving around, you know, like he's a Spurs type of.
Jay, I've missed you. I've missed this honesty.
Horrible
this
little
balance.
player. And he suits Spurs. But I think next season we'll see. We'll see. I mean, ultimately, I'm not entirely sure Richarlison will play that often. I'm not entirely. He won't be a starter week in, week out. And again, is he the type of character just be happy just to come in for the odd game or two? Like, if you go by his attitude and his petulance, you know, previously, that might not be the case. But
yeah, he won't be able to stay on the pitch if he carries on, because he's a feisty bugger, isn't he?
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, I hope it goes tits up for him, and he has a terrible career at Spurs.
I've got to quickly mention it. Is the missus there?
She is.
Oh, close your ears, Stacey. My two concerns for this season. Well, there's a few. Leeds, they worry me. I don't think they've done hardly anything to get themselves together. Everton, sorry, Paul, you had a bad season last season, but I can't see that improving at the minute because they haven't really invested any money in anyone, have they? Really?
No.
And obviously Leicester, it seems to have all gone a bit static.
Mm-hmm.
Hasn't really moved. I mean, he was going great guns, wasn't he, Brendan Rodgers?
Yeah. I mean,
what's happened?
Yeah, I think the difference between Leicester and the other two teams, Everton and Leeds that you mentioned, Leicester have got a much better manager than the rest. Like Rodgers is like, I don't think it's even up for debate anymore, is it? Like, you know, he's a top manager. Like he knows what he's doing. He knows he's tactically good, and he more often than not he makes the right decisions. I think it's a matter of time. They will sign players, Leicester. I just think that they're still a good side. That doesn't really worry me. I don't think they're gonna.
They had a lot of injuries as well, didn't they, Jay?
Yeah, they did. But they finished 8th last season. That's not too bad, you know. And they finished quite strongly. I just think they've got to, you know, in previous years, it was on the radio today that the Leicester model is to sell big and then reinvest that money. You know, they got what was it, 80 odd million for Maguire and reinvested that, and they got 35 mil for Drinkwater. They sold Kante, they sold Mahrez. You know, like again on the radio they were saying today, it wouldn't be a massive shock if they sold, say, a Maddison or something like that for big money. and then reinvested in the squad. They've still got a good side, Leicester.
They're like Del Trotter, aren't they? They kind of sell you a three-legged horse, drink water. I mean, what happened there?
Yeah. I think that the only point where I would be concerned about Leicester is if they lost the manager, and if he, say if they did go through the transfer window and they hadn't signed anybody, or they were getting dangerously close to the end, and Rodgers just walked out, which I don't think he would. But if he did, then you might worry a little bit. It's all the problem with Leicester is, and this has been the problem for years, that they've never been able to replace Vardy, have they? He's such a that Leicester, even last season, were a completely different side when he played, and then they have been for years. Daka did okay when he came in, but even Vardy, whatever age he is now, 34, 35, he's still so dangerous, isn't he? And without replacing him,
is that all he is? I thought he was older than that.
Maybe older. But that must play on Rodgers' mind a little bit. He can't carry on wheeling him out, can he? Every week he's going to have to address that. But they've still got good players, Leicester. They got, you've got your Ndidis, obviously Vardy and Castagna and certain other players that are decent. I'd say the one transfer that did sort of make me sit up was Kasper Schmeichel leaving for Nice to sign for Nice. I thought, Schmeichel was such a big character and personality at the King Power, wasn't he? He played a bit like an ambassador, wasn't he, really? When there was that horrible helicopter crash involving the owner, Schmeichel was massive in the club's recovery from that, and it was just when I saw that come up, it was like, oh, I wonder
has it been confirmed? Has he actually got?
I think he's almost. It's almost going through, and it really made me think. I wonder if there has been something gone off behind the scenes, because you just kind of expected Schmeichel just to finish his career there, right?
Yeah,
and maybe go on to be some coach there, or because he was such a big character there. It just made me think. I hope there hasn't been a breakdown somewhere from the owners to the manager to the players. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I'm thinking too much into it, but I just thought that was a strange transfer. Seeing.
Yeah, I didn't expect that.
No.
Right, let's push on to Man United. Eric Ten Hag sounds like some sort of ice cream, doesn't he? Can he turn it around? I mean, they've brought some players in, but nowhere near enough.
No.
Apparently, he's going to leave Harry Maguire as the captain. There's some real big questions there. Ronaldo wants to go. He can smell the coffee. Let's deal with Ronaldo first.
Yeah,
he's entitled to go, isn't he? He's the best player there.
Yeah.
I would want to keep him, me personally, although lots of United fans see it a different way.
Yeah.
But I'd want to keep him. But you can't blame him if he wants to leave. I mean, when you've got Scott McTominay in your midfield, and that's as good as it's getting, it's time to take a hike, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same as you. I think I said on the last pod or whatever, I think if you can keep Ronaldo, he's one of the best players in the world. He has been for years, and he's got such an influence on the global game still, that I would keep him and try and integrate him into the squad and get him to help some of the youngsters. But if Ronaldo's turned around to the manager and said, I'm not going to play for you, or is giving Ten Hag some concerns about attitude, he's got rid of Pogba, right? Pogba's left, who was, I think it wasn't a secret that he was quite, well, you would presume he was like, quite a negative personality in the changing room. If Ronaldo was going the same way, Ten Hag wouldn't want him around. I mean, I have, it was a couple of weeks back, it was made apparent that Ten Hag's trying to instill a little bit of discipline in and around the changing room, trying to wean out all of the leaks to the press and trying to get a more united changing room. Obviously they sold Lingard to Forest, who I think wasn't a great personality around the training ground. I think it's a tough job for Ten Hag. I think it's a tough job for anybody. But I mean, for Man United, they need to. I think they have to turn around to Ten Hag and first of all back him in the transfer market, which I think they've tried to do, trying to sign like Frankie De Jong, but De Jong doesn't want to play for them. You know, I mean, it's something. This is a situation that in my lifetime, this has never been the case. Man United have always been able to get whoever they want and sign whoever they want and have the financial clout to go and sign whoever they need to and want to, and that's not the case anymore. I kind of do worry for Ten Hag. I thought he would have been able to what's the best way to rejuvenate and regalvanize this squad a bit more than he has already, right? I think the signings they've made have been, they're a bit, obviously there was the Martinez signing, which is pretty decent on paper, looks like a good signing, and then they've got that fullback they signed from Holland, slightly underwhelming. You know, they need, you know, they brought back Martial, who seems to have played a bit more through the middle, and I know that wasn't what a lot of the supporters wanted. I think it's a tough job. If Man United don't start well, we know what that fan base is like. They'll be protested, not necessarily against the manager, but you know, they'll be protesting outside the ground against the Glazers again, won't they? And I think it's a tough job for him. I think he's going to have to ride the wave a little bit. He's going to have to be quite lucky in certain situations because they're not a great side, are they? United, they haven't got too many players.
Without Ronaldo's goals, Jay, they would have been 10th or 11th.
Yeah,
let's just put it like that. I mean, you know, he pulled them out the shit a lot of the time, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. And they haven't bought anybody to replace his goals. If they let him go, Martial, I don't even think, did he even score last season for? I mean, I don't even know where he went. I can't remember. Was it Seville, maybe?
Bognor Regis, wasn't it? Bognor Regis FC. I've got a nice little, seeing as you mentioned him, I've got a nice little note here. Had to laugh, a United fan said that Martial will become as good as Thierry Henry. Dream on, sunshine. Dream on. Or wake up. One or the other.
Yeah, no chance.
So it's going to be a sticky one for them as well, I think. So let's go back to Arsenal. Let's have I've got my notes all over the gaff now. I've wandered off page, so I'm just making it up as I go along. So bear with it.
Always the best way.
I love the drama. Edu, let's have a look at Edu, because some people are I did a post on Facebook. And I put the post on Facebook and social media asking how people would rate the technical director's season so far. So A was nothing special, B was okay, C was good, D was reasonable, and E was excellent. But leave it or not, people, our little podcast family, they wavered between okay and good. What's your appraisal? Surely they've undersold him there. He's had 2 cracking transfer windows so far.
Yeah, this transfer window. He has. He's had two very good transfer windows. I like some of the interviews that he's done recently. He's come across really well. He's a very good communicator, very very clear in the. There's a very clear unity, isn't there, between him and Mikel, and I think he's doing a great job. I suppose the only downside is that he oversaw maybe a couple of transfers when he first started, you know, but I suppose they were at the back end of Raul. But overall, I think he's doing a great job. And I think it's hugely important. And, you know, he was invincible. You know, he played centre midfield for the club. He knows the club. He worked under Wenger. And he seems like a good leader, right? There's not confusing messages coming out. You know, he certainly doesn't come across like he's arrogant in any way. And I think he's doing a great job. I think I suppose there is a criticism that we don't generate much in the way of sales, right? We don't generate much cash from you know, player sales, or, you know, okay, you've got your Joe Willocks, you've got your Iwobis, you've got those type transfers, which we have done well. But, you know, we've got so many more players that we've had to either pay off to go or go for very little. which other clubs don't seem to have that problem. So I'm not saying that's his fault, but I'm just saying I kind of understand a certain amount of criticism that goes his way, when it comes to selling players. But as far as signing players and that very clear unity between him and Mikel, I think he's doing a great job and he gets it. And, we remember him from his playing days. And he was an honest player, wasn't he? He didn't try anything too much that he couldn't do, and he also wasn't afraid. He scored a couple of great goals, and he was a very good centre midfielder. And I think he's leading the club in the same way. I think he's got his feet on the ground, and we're all working towards the same goal, which is getting Arsenal back into the Champions League and ultimately back fighting for the title from what he was as a player. And I think he isn't perfect. He's going to make mistakes. But I mean, you can't argue with the signings that we've made. Especially,
I just want to defend him, Jay, because from the point of view of, I know the ones you're talking about, when they brought in, your Guendouzi's and all this sort of thing, and Torreira, but there was such a crap sort of hierarchy, wasn't there? There was Raul, there was Sven Mislintat. It was a bit of a mess, and I think Mislintat and Raul weren't really on the same page. They were all scrapping for supremacy type of thing, and he was kind of just waiting for that to all bust wide open, because what can you do? It's like having a pen with no refill in it, isn't it? He couldn't do anything much.
There was also the links with Kia Jarabchian, signing his players and like the Raul links. And I know we've had to manage our way through that and get to a point where we're now looking at an Arteta and Edu squad, aren't we? We're not, there's no more of that sort of Raul, Gazidis, Mislintat hangover anymore. It is very much our squad. And I think he's doing a great job. I think it really is. I think he's doing a great job. And I think he just maybe, from time to time, people on social media maybe just remember that he's not perfect. Nobody is. He might make the odd mistake, but I think he's come across really well in some of the interviews. And if you haven't watched some of those interviews that he's done, there was one he did about a week or two ago when they were in America, and he spoke so well, and he spoke about the type of player that Arsenal are looking at, and if he's met up with certain players and they've come across not quite in the way that he wants. And Edu said that he's just cut off all negotiations with these players because they've gone straight to say that. I think he mentioned that they wanted to know how much money straight away was on offer, and he was like, well, that's not what we need. That's not what the type of player we need, because we've had enough of them, haven't we? So I think he's doing a great job.
Well, here's the thing. Edu said when a player's 26 or older, has a big salary and is not performing, he's killing you. In the past, 80% of the squad had those characteristics, and there was no chance anyone would buy them. Gunners Chief also said that he paid off Mustafi, Kolasinac and Socrates. They don't have a transfer value and are comfortable on long contracts living in London. I mean, you can see the other side of it now, can't you? Because fans are moaning, oh, we're not getting any money for them. But he just wanted to cut that off, cut that dead, and then freshen up the squad, get rid of these Charlie Big Potatoes, and move on. And I think we've done that. Yeah,
absolutely. I agree. And I think he also mentioned that those players get in the way of maybe some of the youngsters and a chance, and in and around the changing room and the training ground. I can't imagine that they were the most positive of characters. Now, I don't know. I've got nothing to base that on, but if they're on big money and they're not playing, I don't think it would surprise anybody if one or two of those players were slightly disruptive. But I'm just, we're in a much better position now, and that's partly due to Edu's work.
One of the problems we've still got, Jay, is I know we're getting rid of people on the cheap, but Nicolas Pepe, he's going to take some shifting, isn't he? I mean, who's going to want him?
Yeah.
Be lucky to get 20 million. 18,
probably not even that. I mean, I'm not entirely sure we're going to sell him. I think we're going to keep him and then maybe move him on in January if we can. I just think there hasn't been any interest at all, has there, or reported interest in him. I mean, the wages are obviously going to be big. I still think, Tom, there's a player in there.
So do I. Yeah, he frustrates the
Yeah.
balls off me because I nearly did it. I nearly did the F word. He frustrates me so badly because sometimes he runs off. He makes a really dynamic run, leaves the ball behind him, or it just seems left leggy.
A bit wasteful in possession, and he's not an Arteta type player, obviously. But I still think there's a player in there, and he does bring that chaos, doesn't he? He does bring that that you want on the bench. But I think ultimately, if somebody came in with a £20 million bid, say for Newcastle or a foreign side came in with 20 million, you'd have to sell him, wouldn't you? You'd have to because he just hasn't quite worked out. He hasn't been as bad as a lot of people make out, but he's just not hit the heights that the transfer fee dictated, right? Or be expected. I think he could.
Not his fault though, was it?
Not
He never said, "Oh, pay 72 million for me" or whatever. I mean, this is old money bags role, isn't it? You know, one for me, none for you. It all got a bit out of hand. That player was no more than 28, 30 million, surely.
No.
Most of the goals he scored, the majority of them, as Mitch said, were penalties.
Yeah, and in France as well. You know, players come out of France. You don't tend to go for that hugely inflated transfers coming out of France, do you? But yeah, I hope he can contribute this season. If he doesn't get sold, I hope he can put a bit of a shift in.
Well, he'll find a role, won't he? Because it's 5 subs this term, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we'll be able to freshen up. You could strip out your goalkeeper and your back four, couldn't you? Just replace them. Not that we want to do that in a hurry. Let's have a look at the series on Amazon, All or Nothing. Been some interesting trailers. What are you expecting from this extravaganza?
I'm slightly what's the best word to use? Slightly anxious, maybe. I didn't want us to do it in the first place. I don't always agree. I suppose I have watched some of them on other sides, other teams, but it's one of those things that you don't want your own team to do because you don't want the manager or any of the players or coaching staff or whoever's involved in it to come out of it, especially when it's your club, to come out of it looking like a bit of a muppet or embarrassing themselves. So I suppose I've got a little bit of anxiety about it, but I think the club got 11 million, didn't they? I read somewhere got 11 million quid for doing it.
That's almost Ronaldo's shin, isn't it?
I can't imagine Arteta really enjoyed having the cameras around. You know, certainly doesn't come across like a bit like Mourinho probably did when it was Spurs last season. And there was some cringe moments in that documentary, and I'm sure there'll be a few cringe moments in this one. You know, but it'll be interesting because we're going to be able to see to a certain extent, what happened with Aubameyang.
That's the one I'm looking forward to.
The fallout there, and ultimately, there were a lot of high points, but there were also some low points, and it'd be interesting to see how Mikel and the squad recovered from some of those. So, yeah, I will watch it. I wouldn't say I'm massively looking forward to it. I've got to be honest. It's not something I just would never. I never wanted it to be Arsenal because I never want the club to be like ridiculed or embarrassed in any way, or the manager. You know, Arteta certainly doesn't need that because he's so new and young. But look, I'm sure it'll be good. I'll watch it. There was that other documentary, wasn't there, on Haarland, which I'm kind of more wanted to see than the Amazon. But yeah, I hope it's good, and I hope there's not too many cringe moments.
I think the thing is that we will, bare minimum, we'll see Arteta. We'll see what Arteta is like, because he's been accused of all sorts of things, being inexperienced and all that sort of thing. But from what I've seen, the little snippets I've seen, very kind of committed, passionate, all these things that you would expect from your manager, even having the odd sort of rage and banging some stuff around, which I tend to like. I like all that stuff. You know, if you're going to sit there and just sort of go, oh well, lads, come on, more in the second half, that's a waste of space. You want someone who can sort of G the troops up, and that's what I'm hoping for. That we see a new side of Arteta.
You are right about you will see Arteta, because he has been accused, hasn't he, of maybe a certain amount of like alienation of certain players like Pepe and like Aubameyang, and you know, like where these players were left out of the side for considerable amounts of time. You know, like I never believed that, but I'm sure we'll see it on the documentary. And ultimately, I think we know the case, especially with Aubameyang. He just didn't fancy the fight, did he? And he just didn't fancy this new approach that Arteta brought. So it will be interesting.
He probably thought that he was untouchable. You know, when you've got these big stars, and Arteta has been accused of not liking the big guys. You know, the Ozils and the Aubameyangs. Although, if you look across the board, Guendouzi wasn't an established star. He just didn't like the way that he created. Old Sideshow Bob, he used to play up left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
Right, before we wrap it up, I'm sure you've got better things to do than carry on chatting about football. No, you haven't. Of course you haven't. Let's have a look at where you think it's going to shape up. Let's do the top of the league first. Let's do the top of the Premiership. How do you see it shaping up? I'll give you some sort of facts, betting odds even. Manchester City are 8-13, Liverpool 11-4, Tottenham 14-1, Chelsea 16-1, Manchester United 40-1, same as us.
40-1.
Who do you expect to see in your top five?
Okay, so champions, I'm going to say Liverpool. Then I'm going to go City.
Even with Haarland?
Yeah, but just where we are now. Because I still think if City don't sign anybody else, I think they're slightly weaker than they were last season. Only slightly. You know, they've lost Jesus and they've lost Sterling, but signed Haarland. I think they're slightly weaker, and I think Liverpool aren't weaker. I think they've lost Mane, but they've got Nunes and they've got Diaz. So I think they may be.
They've not lost Sane.
So I think they're
I think I was hungry.
So I think Liverpool will win the title, City second, see third. And this is what I was saying earlier. I think it's going to be between Chelsea, Spurs and us for third and fourth. And I think United will be, I think West Ham could have a good season. They've signed that Scamacca from Sassuolo. He's a great striker, very, very good. And I think they'll push Man United. But I think the top five, there'll be a gap between Man United and West Ham. But top four, I think we can get fourth. I think we can get third or fourth. I do. I think we're strong enough. We've looked at where we needed to improve, and we've improved in those areas. And I think, ultimately, there's still about 3 or 4 weeks of the transfer window left. So Chelsea could go and sign, I don't know, who have 3 or 4 players, and they could, look much stronger than they are now. But I think we can get in there. Surely that's what we need to aim for, right? You don't go and sign Jesus and Zinchenko and Vieira.
I'm going to go top 3. We are going to get third spot. I'm going to be really enthusiastic and say, I will play this back, and I'll go, yes.
Love it.
But I'm going to say, so let's nail your 5 down. Have you done that? Okay. Liverpool first, Man City second.
I'm going to go. All right, then. I'll go Arsenal third.
Arsenal third. Good man.
And Chelsea fourth. I'm not going to put Spurs in the top 5, top 4, am I? So Spurs 5th.
Yeah.
And Man United 6th. West Ham 7th.
Yeah, and I think Newcastle will creep up there as well.
Newcastle, yeah. Forgot about
Newcastle, West Ham. They'll have a little bit of a doodah. Right, let's have a look at the bottom. Let's have a look at the old betting odds again. All that sort of stuff down at the track. Yeah. Bournemouth 8-15, Nottingham Forest 5-4, Fulham 3-2, Leeds 2-1, Brentford 5-2, Southampton 3-1, Everton 7-2, Wolves 11-2, Crystal Palace 11-2, and Brighton and Hove Albion 9-1. For me, the standout characters there in that list, Leeds United, I'm worried about. Not worried, obviously, but
Yeah.
Everton.
Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah.
And Southampton as well. I think they had a bit of a mixed season, but the floor fell out, didn't it? And they started sliding down like it was going out of fashion.
I think Fulham, Bournemouth, I think are going to struggle. I just think their stadium and they're just not built for Premier League football. I think Forest will stay up. I've got a lot of friends that are Forest fans, and I think they've got a great manager. Cooper, he's a top manager, and they've made a lot of signings. And it's a big stadium. The atmosphere there is superb, which I think will make the difference. I think Bournemouth will go down. I think Fulham will probably go down because they're a bit of a yo-yo, aren't they? And Leeds, I agree with you. They were shocking last season, weren't they? Even for both managers, Bielsa and Marsh. I think Leeds could really struggle if they don't start well. They'll get rid of Marsh, won't they? And go, I don't know, go for one of the more chiseled veterans. But yeah, I'm going to say Forest are going to stay up. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'd go Bournemouth, Leeds, and Fulham at the minute. Just because, I mean,
Everton as well.
They'll be there or thereabouts, won't they? Right. Okay. So, what about top goal scorer? Who you got down as that? Who would you have? There's a whole list of names according to here: Erling Haarland, Salah, Kane, Gabriel Jesus, Nunez, Son, Ronaldo. I think they're pushing their luck with that one. Jamie Vardy, he gets a mention. Hey, Stacey. Hey, whoa, yeah, Mr. Vardy. And Raheem Sterling.
Yeah, I'm going to go for Haaland or Kane.
Haaland for me.
Yeah, he's just an animal, and they're going to get so many chances. And when they click into gear, they're going to be laying it on a plate for him, aren't they? So yeah.
Right then, we'll do one more before we go, and it's who's in the sack race.
Oh,
we don't really like to talk about that sort of thing, but we will because we're not in it, I don't think. Right, so it's Lampard, Hasenhüttl, Jesse Marsh, Brendan Rodgers. Behave yourselves.
No.
Who would you put in the old sack race?
Yeah, Marsh definitely. I think if they lose the first couple of games, he's struggling. Lampard as well, and I know they got out of it at the end last season, but who have they signed? Tarkowski and signed another lad from Burnley. They haven't got much money, have they? They haven't signed anyone. The FFP's a real issue for him. So yeah, I can see Lampard getting the boot early doors. Yeah, those two, Lampard and Marsh, definitely. They're struggling. They're on their arse at the minute, them two.
Jay, it's been a pleasure having your company again, and we'll meet up for the next one. We'll be discussing Crystal Palace. Quick prediction from you. I'm going to go 1-0.
I think we're going to win 3-1.
Yes. God, calm down, man.
Oh, I know.
Just because you've had a rest.
New season. Enthusiastic.
Got to just give Shauna MB Bar a little mention because he's done the titles at the beginning of the YouTube for season 3. Jay, been brilliant again. Lovely to have you back. We might get Mitch next time around. We'll definitely get Paul, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, lovely. Take care, mate.
Goodness.